My name is Sister Kathleen Wegman. I'm the Interim Associate Director of Catholic Schools for the Diocese of Jefferson City, and I'm pleased to share with you the Church's vision of the Local School Advisory Board as supported by Bishop Gatos, our local bishop. So as always, we begin everything that we're doing in terms of consultative bodies with the fourfold mission of the Church, which is to proclaim the gospel, to form community, to serve the poor, and to celebrate through the sacramental life of the Church. And you'll notice that we have the role of the ordained and the role of the laity. And when these two groups complement each other in the role and responsibilities they've been given by the Church, obviously everything would work very smoothly. So first we'll look at the role of the pastor. The pastor, as determined by church law, is the legal authority to govern both the temporal and the spiritual affairs of the parish. He is subject to the authority of the bishop and the laws of the church. Now, you will notice two words in italics, the temporal and the spiritual affairs. The church provides two parallel councils to advise him on those two responsibilities. The temporal goods of the parish would be the bricks and mortar, the money, the pavement, and so forth. And the local parish finance council would advise him on those areas. And then the spiritual affairs of the parish, he would receive counsel from the parish pastoral council. They do with all that has to do with how you are effective in the fourfold mission of the church. So let's look first at the parish pastoral council briefly. And this is important that the school board understand the role of these two councils and the school board's relationship to these two councils. The Parish Pastoral Council is defined as a unique, collaborative advisory body called to share with the pastor in determining all the important matters that affect the spiritual life of the parish. So how are we as a parish in forming community, preaching the gospel, serving the poor, the sacramental life of the church? That's the content of the Parish Pastoral Council, the spiritual well-being of the parish. And that's established in Canon 536, which basically says that if a diocesan bishop, after consulting with his presbyteral council, decides to establish a parish pastoral council in each parish, over which the pastor presides and in which the Christian faithful, together with those who share in pastoral care by virtue of their office in the parish, assist in fostering that pastoral activity. Bishop Gatos does require that a parish pastoral council exists in every parish of the Diocese of Jefferson City. The Christian faithful, together with those who share in pastoral care by virtue of their office in the parish, would be, for example, the school principal, the DRE. It's usually those members of the parish staff either who are employed or on a volunteer basis, help implement that parish activity by virtue of their role in the parish. And as all consultative bodies, the Parish Pastoral Council possesses a consultative vote and is governed by the norms established by the diocesan bishop. The other group briefly we'll talk about is the Parish Finance Council. It is a consultative body called to assist the pastor in the administration of the temporal goods of the parish. So basically, the Parish Pastoral Council determines what's good for the pastoral well-being of the parish. The Finance Council has to determine how we pay for it. That's the basic difference between the two. And I think in her wisdom, the Church has separated them because we have a tendency on a human level that money drives everything. And if money would drive everything in a parish, then the spiritual well-being of the parish could be sacrificed. And Canon 536 establishes a Parish Finance Council. And actually, in each parish, there is to be a Finance Council, which is governed in addition to universal law by norms issued by the diocesan bishop, and would, once again, in which the Christian faithful, as selected according to these norms, are to assist the pastor in the administration of those temporal goods of the parish. Universal church law requires there be a finance council. A local bishop determines if there's to be a parish council. That's a basic difference. Parish finance councils are usually elected, or they come to a parish council by virtue of a commission they serve on or whatever. Finance councils are appointed by the pastor. They're not elected positions because their positions require unique skills. And so that also is a basic difference. Now, let's move on to the purpose of this presentation, which is to look at the school. In the Diocese of Jefferson City in particular, our schools are a ministry of the parish. And so our language needs to reflect that. It's our school. It's not the school. The children belong to all the parishioners, not just the parent of the child. And so the school's programs are to be consistent with the parish's mission. And the parish chooses the school as a means to carry out its mission. To proclaim the gospel, one of the fourfold missions of the church, is part of the teaching ministry of the church. Therefore, one way a parish decides to fulfill that teaching mission, especially in the formation of its youth, would be in a parish elementary school. There's also a parish school of religion or CCD program, whatever your particular parish calls it. But each parish bears that responsibility for the faith formation of its youth and assisting the parents in fulfilling that. So a school advisory board is a representative group of the parish called to advise the pastor in making policy for the parish school. And we'll talk a little bit more about what policy is shortly. This canon, or the direction of a school advisory board, is not as clear in canon law. However, Canon 796 calls for collaboration on the part of parents and teachers. And there should be some kind of union or an association in each parish so that parents and teachers collaborate in the formation of their youth. In the United States, the U.S. bishops have chosen that the school advisory board is an application of this canon. So in most dioceses, you would have school advisory boards or school parish boards, whatever they would choose to call them. So let's look at the relationship between these two councils, because very often in a parish, these get all mixed up. The school advisory board relates to the parish pastoral council regarding mission. Remember, the school is a ministry of the parish. It is a way in which the parish chooses to fulfill one of the fourfold missions that it has. The school advisory board relates to the parish finance council in the area of budget and facilities. If the roof is starting to leak, the school advisory board deals with the finance council, not the parish council. You see the difference there? That it's very, very strict and clear. And when I can tell you honestly, when boundaries are lived well, there's cohesion in a parish. Okay, let's look at the consultative. You'll recall early that first slide said that the Parish Pastoral Council and the Finance Council are consultative. And sometimes in the United States, this is a difficulty for us because we come out of the democratic model, the civic model, and we usually try to elect people who think like we do or promote the agenda that we have. And that's our civic model. But the church model is a discernment process. We're all trying to discern and discover where God is leading us as a parish community. In a civic model, members of a particular organization represent their constituency. In the church model, you are to represent the mission of the church. In a civic model, there are winners and losers. In the church model, we're searching for the will of God. And we're steps on a journey. So some of you will be on a school board for a time, and then you move off and others come on. It's the same as the parish council, but together we try to discern where God is calling us. In the civic model, we have defined and controlled outcomes. In the church model, we engage in dialogue, reflection, and contemplation rather than always discussion and conclusions. We do discuss and we come to a conclusion, but the way in which we do it has to be discerning and contemplative. Predefined ending in the church model and in the civic model, and in the church model, we're seeking a way of life. So it's a whole different way of being than being on a decision-making board. Okay, let's look at the difference between a local public school board and a parish school advisory board. The parish public school board, and some of you may have served on it, is is the model we use in the public schools in the United States. Our advisory school boards is the model we use for Catholic schools in our diocese. The public school board is a regulatory board. What they decide becomes law for that particular school district. In the advisory school board of our parishes, it's consultative. The parish school board's decision, or the parish council's decision, or the finance council's decision is to recommend. It's not to decide. The decision is to recommend to the pastor a particular course or direction. In our public school boards, they are a legal entity. Our advisory school boards in a parish are not a legal entity. A huge difference. Public school board members can be held liable for the decisions they make. That is not true, because our local school advisory boards do not make decisions. They decide to recommend. Juridic school boards are established by law. Parish school advisory boards are established by the pastor. In juridic public school boards, they are elected to represent various constituents. In our school advisory boards in our parishes, they're elected or appointed from among the parishioners. Now, this has a great deal of implication when it comes to authority, because in a public school board, the juridic board, members possess individual and collective authority. So when they walk out of their board meeting, they still have authority. And if you have a difficulty with a particular what's going on in a public school, you can go directly to a school board member. In our consultative boards, no individual authority exists, only collective. So technically, you are a school advisory board member at St. Whatever school only when you're sitting around the table as the board. And when you walk out the room, you don't exist as a school advisory board member in that particular instance, or when comparing it to a public school. In the juridic board, though each member is responsible for legal decisions and final judgments. In our school advisory boards in our parishes, no responsibility for legal decisions or judgments. All members are bonded in a public school board. No board members are bonded in a local school advisory board. So if you choose as an individual board member to act outside of the boundary of that consultative body, you could assume some liability. In the school, on the parish schools that we have, the pastor and the principal have legal coverage for actions they take, and they seek legal advice. The school advisory board does not. So you want to be very careful not to act as an individual. And we'll talk more about your relationship to parents and teachers as we move along here. In the juridic board, it can act as an individual advocate for a parent. No individual authority can anyone assume as an advocate for a parent when you're a member of a school advisory board, and you really don't want to get yourself in that position, because it's a road you go down that you can't back up. So it's a tremendous freedom when you're called to be a member of a discerning body, to not be burdened with that. In our public schools, the board members can exercise authority outside of a board meeting. In our school advisory boards, they can exercise authority only when the board is seated in a meeting. Big distinction, and one that we often struggle with, especially in our small communities, because the only model for boards in some of our small towns is the public school board. But you're freed of many of those responsibilities. Okay, so what are your basic responsibilities as a school advisory board member? Well, first, to formulate and recommend policy to the pastor for the parish school. Secondly, to pursue the goals of long-range planning and public relations for the school. To review and recommend the annual school budget for presentation to the parish council. And we'll talk more about that later. That's a significant responsibility, and it's very important that the school advisory board and the finance council are clear on their roles when it comes to the budget of the school. To participate in setting goals for the school board, the school and its board. To participate in the local search for a school principal and participate in the evaluation of his or her performance. And for those of you who are new, you will learn that there are processes within the diocese to assist you in not only the search, but in the evaluation of the performance of the principal. And to review and evaluate your own meetings and your communications. How are we in doing what we're supposed to be doing?